Hi, Nicole with Moms Apart here. I'm so excited to introduce to you the Dr. Rounds worksheet. This is a free worksheet that I'm offering to you. It comes from the hospital binder pack that I'll tell you more about in the next video. But the Doctor's Round worksheet is amazing because it helps you be ready for rounds. So those 15-20 minutes you get with the doctors, you can make them the most efficient and capture everything you need to know. So this first spot is to keep track of the doctor's name. I know that seems kind of simple, but I never did keep track and it caused a lot of confusion at different times. So that way you can just write down the doctor's name and remember who was rounds that day and who was the attending. And your fellow, because that changes also. And then there's a spot on here to keep track of your goals for the day. So sometimes during rounds, the doctors will say, these are our goals. This is what we're reaching towards. You know, we want to try and get off oxygen today, or we're trying to get off peritoneal dialysis. And these are like the objectives we want to see to be able to reach that goal. I would write all of those things down so that I could keep track of what we're progressing towards, and then also keep track of the progression towards that. So then if I'm okay, we're meeting that, why are we not, adjusting? You can bring that back up. First, your questions. So if there's questions that that you're just, okay, it's not an urgent question, but I'd like to discuss it around, there's a spot to just write that down real quick. And then to simplify care, I think this is kind of the bread and butter that I can kind of offer you. So as an advocate, it's your job to pay attention to your child's experience. There isn't really anybody else on the care team that pays attention to that. The doctors and nurses and everybody else on the team is managing more of the medical part, but they're not really thinking about your child's experience. And that's kind of your job. So as you're observing the way the days are flowing, you might see that maybe things are being done in an inefficient way that's causing more difficulty for your child. So maybe your child seems to be being woken up unnecessarily because of the way the flow of things is. Then you can address that with the doctors to maybe that the orders need to be changed. So once we got to step down and we were getting ready to go home, and we weren't, he wasn't on cardiac monitoring anymore, and things were getting really, really simple. We were just working out some different kinks for discharge. I asked if we could get rid of one of the night shift vital signs so that everybody could sleep a little bit better, and they didn't have a problem with that. Now, if you're still in the ICU, they're not going to work with you on that. But as you're getting, reasonable requests, that just, they don't think about that. So kind of be thinking about those things. And so there's kind of a cue for you to think about what care are they doing that maybe is unnecessary or maybe is being done in an inefficient way. For example, sometimes they do IVs and blood draws not together. So if a medication is being run through an IV, you can't always do a blood draw with it, occasionally, but not usually. Unless you have a PICC line or something like that, one of the more large IVs that are designed for that. So if for some reason the IV needs to be replaced, it's your job to make sure that if there's labs due in the near future, to remind them that they need to draw those labs then. I know it feels like it shouldn't be your job, but it is, because no one else will think of it. They'll come back, 3-4 hours later and say, okay, we're here for labs. And you're like, we just placed an IV. Couldn't you have gotten them then? Yeah, they could have, but they didn't think of it. And so you can think of it and mention it to them. So one of the things that I would write down on here is a reminder, especially if it's a new doctor I haven't worked with. I just kind of tell them little quirks about my son's history. And he has trouble with when they draw electrolytes. A lot of times they come back hemolyzed. And so we kind of found a specific way, if we draw them, that it doesn't come back hemolyzed and we get an accurate answer the first time. But if they don't do it that way, it sometimes ends up getting poked 3 times in the process. And so I'll address that. If they're watching his electrolytes, I'll say at the beginning, so if we're drawing electrolytes today, I want to make sure that we draw it this way. And you can look back at this chart and you can see why I'm asking this, but this will simplify things a lot if we can do it this way. So there's just that cue to help keep everybody on the same page. The bottom is concerns for the day. So that's kind of more a little different than questions, because questions may be regarding discharge planning or, it's really not urgent stuff. Concerns would be more like, I'm noticing that the NIRS is trending down, or the oxygen's trending down, or kind of more of those medical things. And those you actually might want to address first within rounds. because that kind of may change the direction of things. They might offer, check some other testing and things. So in addition, so you're getting this page for free today. If you would like to get to know more about the Hospital Binder Pack and the other fabulous worksheets in there, as well as some other great bonuses, check out momsofheart.com or the email that you've got this freebie, and there'll be more information about how you can get the whole entire hospital binder. Thanks so much for watching.